Morning, everybody. You're looking at Elm Street in Lowell, and it's 21 degrees out there, and it's windy. So it's a good day to drive little Evelyn to school or little Johnny to school. No bus stop for you, kiddo. Too cold. Be with you in a couple of minutes. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I am your host this morning. Another bright Thursday morning. A little chilly out there. Sam Chase isn't with us this morning. Had another appointment that overlaps our time frame. So we wish him well on that. And John McDonough is on the other side of the camera, obviously, as all the time. We have Attorney Sandra Meneses coming in around 7. I told her if she wanted to come early, she could. So if anybody's out there and you've got some legal questions you might want to have answered, if she can answer them this morning, that would be great. We're going to talk about all kinds of different things dealing with estates, and there's some new taxes out there, not just in real estate, but there's some stuff that you may want to do before you file your income taxes, to be aware of some new stuff, federal and Massachusetts. So that's some of the stuff. I'll make some comments about that as we go along. But the weather is always challenging. As you can see on your clock, when I started, it was about 6:04 a.m. because when I went out to my car, it was like covered in ice. So I had to scrape all the ice off, which took me a little longer than it normally does. And so everybody needs to be really, really careful. The streets look wet, but they may be icy. When I live in Chelmsford, so when I came on 110 to the center of town at the light, when I went to brake, the braking system came on because that meant I was sliding. So at least I braked early because I saw that it was
Ice
wet.
skating in town center.
Yeah, well, it's not that bad. Everything seems to be okay.
Got 2 comments.
Yep, great comment. Shot of the sidewalks not shoveled in front of the old courthouse. Who's responsible for that? Maybe a city councilor can call in and put their spin on why it hasn't been shoveled, Jay. Also, if the building is empty, Superior Courthouse, why are there cars parked in the lot? Very good questions. As far as doing the sidewalks, that is the city's job to do. In Chelmsford, when we had our town meeting, quite a number of years ago, they had a warrant article on having, it's not the job of the city to take care of the
It's
sidewalks?
the property occupier.
Is that your bylaw? But who owns the courthouse? The state? The state's supposed to come
So
in?
the state should be shoveling that sidewalk.
Wow. Well, anyway, it's government, so we know that may not happen.
Well, no, the government has to point fingers. Look, we go home Friday at noontime. Leave us alone.
And maybe some of the cars in the parking lot are people that work in the area, and they may be also maintenance people that are in the building, and you never know what's going on with regard to that. I would hope that there would be maintenance people within the building that would maintain, things so that pipes don't freeze or break or whatever's going on. I have no idea, but in Chelmsford, what I was going to say was very similar to what John said. Whoever owns the building or the property is responsible for the sidewalks. And we said no, only because we have too many people in our town that are older or may not be able to do that, and to hold them liable for it is not fair. So sidewalks, sometimes
In the land of Oz, Tewksbury, they have a sidewalk plow.
We have
town
sidewalk
does.
plows.
The town does. And
Yes.
they do many of the sidewalks. I don't know which ones they do, but they do many of the sidewalks.
The sidewalks that the town, I've seen the town do, they're the sidewalks on major streets. So you have North Road, Boston Road, around the schools, because you have some kids that walk to school. I don't know.
Nobody's walking to school today. It's too cold.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that when even if it's too cold, if the kid has to get to school and the parents work, they're going to be on the sidewalks.
No, they're going to be walking on the street today. Sidewalks are all icy.
Everything's icy, including the streets.
So drive little Evelyn to school today, please.
Yeah, so you want to be cautious about what's out there. They pre-treated streets, at least in Chelmsford they did, and some of them are wet. I don't know what the temperature is in Chelmsford. What is the temperature here? Do you know?
21.
Yeah, let me see. So it's not that bad, and we will talk about the weather a little bit longer and the effects of this weather because of what's going on in my location. Let me see. Yeah, Lowell, it's 23. So at 23, if you put salt on the roads, it's most likely to melt that ice. It's when you
It's
get below zero that it's
Icy
difficult.
outside. Just be careful.
Yeah. So as a result of the snow and the ice, and I've been reading on Facebook, and I will commiserate with anybody that has ice dams on their house. A lot of times the ice dams are formed simply because you don't have the right ventilation in an attic, and the warm air goes up through the soffits, melts the ice on the edge, and then it can't go anywhere. We used to have a lot more ice dams when we had gutters, but we still have ice dams. This year, for the first time since we moved into the house in 1981, I had water in my kitchen ceiling. Now, I have a two-story house plus a full attic on the top. I'm not sure where it's coming in. When we had the roof done, we had ice and water shield put across the whole top of the roof. So if water pushed up underneath the shingles, it can't go anywhere. However, you do have vent pipes for the house because you need that to be able to flush your toilets or have the water go down the sink. And I mean, there's a lot of things like that. It's definitely set up that way. But until I can remove the floor in my attic to see where it's coming from, I don't know where it is. And I need to do that because if it came in and the insulation got wet in the summertime, the possibility is I may have mold in my attic as a result of the water being there. So you want to make sure that if you have water coming in somewhere, it's in the ceiling in the bathroom on the second floor, not very much. It's a small amount. But for it to get to the first floor is annoying. And it also appears as though it's drying. We had big fans on. I mean, we took apart the closet behind the shower in the bathroom and put fans in there, and because we wanted to make sure we didn't have a plumbing issue. But we do have that. Nothing ended up in the basement because there's like a direct shot from one of the eaves all the way down if it does back up there. So as far as ice dams go, it's like 35 feet up in the air, and we're not getting up on ladders because it's icy on the ground to try to get rid of the ice. My husband was pounding the ice off of the family room because that's only a single story high. So there's a lot of interesting stuff as far as this winter goes so far. And then we'll see whether or not we're going to get more snow. And I think there is snow in the forecast, right, John, that we will have it next week sometime? Do we?
Yeah, maybe, big fat maybe next week.
Yeah, sometimes they really don't know. I mean, basically weather is usually, an educated guess. But all the wind has to do is blow a certain way, and it can really alter either snow amounts, or it can alter the fact that we even get it, like that big, what did they call that, a bomb genesis or a bomb cyclone, whatever the thing was that they had last week, and it got pushed out to sea, so that New England really, didn't get much. Got some stuff along the Cape, the islands, and along like Plymouth and Hingham and stuff like that, but you didn't get a whole lot of stuff inland. We didn't get much, and the lake certainly didn't get anything, but we certainly got a lot of snow, that's for sure. Snow is not a bad thing. This leads into the next thing that I was going to talk about briefly, because I got this in the mail from the Chelmsford Water Department. When we've had discussions on water before, one of the positive things about all of the snowfall is that as it melts, it sinks into the ground and it goes deeper instead of running off like rain does. Rain doesn't soak deep into the ground. So a lot of people think that, we have all this rain, the wells are fine, because Chelmsford is on wells. Lowell is not. Some people are on wells as a matter of choice in communities, but we're not. So, and we have 3 different water districts in Chelmsford, all private. It's not owned by the municipality.
But there is rumor that the town's going to take them over.
There's always been that rumor.
You think it'll happen?
No,
Understood.
because unless the water takers want it to happen, because the water takers in the different districts are the ones that vote on all the
Water-takers.
policies. Yep, that's
Do
what
they
they're
know
called.
the undertakers? The water takers?
Anyway, it kind of gives you an interesting mental picture. So the snowfall helps. The snowfall also helps if you've ever listened to all of the problems that California has, is that the snow in the northern part of the California, that runoff eventually ends up further south, fills up lakes and rivers and streams and supplies some of the areas that doesn't have as much water. So I don't mind having a lot of snow as long as I don't have to shovel it. And the older that I've gotten, the less I shovel, and the more, my husband shovels and the kids shovel and all that stuff. And snow blowers work quite nicely. And these storms that we've had have been fairly light snow, fluffy snow, so it makes it easier for everybody to shovel. You just want to be careful the older that you get, and sometimes it's not even that. It depends on the condition of your heart, if you're on any medications or not. So you want to be cautious about doing that. So that leads into a letter that I got from the Chelmsford Water District about PFAS. And it wanted to know that we're over whatever the limit is that's recommended. But when you read the report that they sent, which I have here, so we have a two-page, well, actually, it's 3 pages report.
You're not going to read them, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I read it because I thought it was a bill, and I was going, why do I have a bill so far? And so, but in reading it, and they have warnings for people that have some problems.
So it's saying don't drink town water?
Well, no, it doesn't say that. It says it's not an emergency, and if it had been, you would have been notified within 24 hours. Now, I don't know how they would notify you within 24 hours
Evelyn, just stick with the letter.
unless they actually went
How do
through
you
the
know?
reverse 911.
It's not important. Tell us what the letter says.
So,
Please.
they give you a table, and they are monitoring this every month. They have an analysis of what's in it, and depending upon where you live, there's more in some of the wells than there are in others. But when we had the representative from the Chelmsford Water Central Water District here, he said that number varies up and down all the time for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting to see if this changes or increases because we've had so much snow. That may increase the groundwater. That would then dissolve these things that are deep in the soil. Excuse me. So it does tell you where they're having higher numbers than others, all the different locations, and they want to make sure that people that have any issues, excuse me, probably need another cup of coffee here, on the liver, blood, immune system, thyroid, and fetal development, that if you drink the water, it may elevate issues with regard to that. I thought it was interesting as
Don't drink the town water.
I would suggest you don't drink it unless you filter it, and that leads me to something else.
Now, where do you get you got bottled water there? Is that refreshened water or is that spring water?
It says it's spring water.
Okay.
Glenn did a research on all of the spring waters, but he's not here to tell you what the results are. But you certainly can look that up online. This happens to be Crystal Geyser. A lot of times they have Poland Springs. But you want to make sure that you just don't have water out of some place that doesn't have a spring, which is underground water, or that it's not, the label should be on it. The other thing that has always bothered me, again, which is another rabbit hole here we can go down, is the sodium content and or calcium content that would be in your water, because with all the salt they're putting on the roads because of the stormwater act that they have and all of the regulations that go along with that, it's going to increase the salts in the water because they're not using as much sand anymore. So that increase in salt in the water can change your blood pressure, depending on how much water you drink, of course.
Well, there's a bus out there with your name on it. Come on, you're being silly.
Well, no, they used to send us these letters to tell us what the sodium content was of the
It's
water.
a loyal letter just to cover their butt.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you that I don't care if it's a lawyer
Here's
letter.
the letter so you can't sue us later.
I always was careful anyway once they started talking about the salt in the water. So they have what they call sensitive subgroups.
Sensitive subgroups.
Yep.
Do they go to bingo? Do they go on cruises, these sensitive subgroups?
I'm certainly sure. You've got pregnant and nursing women, infants, and people diagnosed by the healthcare provider to have a compromised immune system.
They're not watching the show.
I'm sure they're not, but maybe somebody knows somebody that is doing that.
They don't care.
They suggest using bottled water and bottled water for infant formula. And if you're not in the sensitive subgroup, you can consume the water because...
Did anybody consider writing them and say, stop putting dirty water in our pipes? Would you read this one?
With the amount of companies spreading fertilizer and everything, of course it's going to get into the wells and the tap water. Yes, but the stuff that's in the fertilizers is potassium and phosphates and nitrogen. So there's no sodium or calcium in the fertilizers, so you want to read the package. So what happens with the chemicals that's in the fertilizer, if it gets into the water supplies, a lot of times what that does is it promotes algae growth. Because if it helps your grass grow, it's going to help something else that's green that grows. That's oversimplifying. So as I'm going through this, not to bring it to a conclusion, but we don't need to have a whole lecture on PFAS.
We don't
So
need
what
any
I
more.
did-
We heard enough.
Well, no, some people will say, well, what do I do about it? You can drink bottled water, okay, or you can get a filtration system in your house, which costs quite a bit of money, which means then even if you shower with it, you're not getting anything on you, even though they tell you that we're under the limit in Chelmsford. I do not know whether,
Well,
do you,
Chelmsford's not even watching us right now.
well, we're on for 2 hours in Chelmsford.
Oh, we're on in Chelmsford right now?
Yes, we're supposed to be on.
Oh, no wonder we're talking Chelmsford and things. Oh, of course.
And so I'll bring this up also after the 7 o'clock mark, because some people don't get up at 6. But
So
if
what do you
you're
cook with them? Do you cook with PFAS?
apparently. Now, boiling doesn't take it out.
Do you bathe with these PFAS?
No, I don't use water very much in my baking. So
So
I
when you
gave,
bathe, you don't use it either.
oh, you said bathe. Yes, I would, because how else do you do this?
I'm just wondering about the PFAS.
So we're thinking about getting a full household filtration system.
Evelyn, I've yet to see a death certificate where the cause is PFAS.
Well, what happens is that the PFAS
Oh, the cover-up?
will cause other problems in your system. It's kind of like the microplastics, and there's all this nanoparticles and all the other stuff that they have out there. And over time, it could make you have other issues, as they talked about with the immune system. And when I read more on it, it also could increase your cholesterol. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So it depends on how your body will process it. And what they're doing is taking general terms, general areas, and saying just be cautious about what it is you do. However, what I did was I looked up all the different things. Can you filter out PFAS out of your water?
Oh, Evelyn, how much longer are you going to go on?
Well, sometimes people like this. I know
No,
that
they
Bob always
don't.
liked it.
No, they don't. I'm getting hate dots right now.
No, you're not.
Shut
So-
her up. Stop talking about the
Yeah,
PFAS.
no, that's you. So anyway, if you need
How much
to...
longer are you going to go on this?
Can I just finish my comment? So if you want to filter it out, go on Amazon, make sure that you can get filters. You can buy the Brita thing as long as you have the filter that says it's specific to take this out. So, and when it does, take it out, you're fine to drink whatever the water is, so you don't have to buy water, you can process your own. So that's the stuff on the water, which I will then
Put that
turn a new
book-
page.
Back up on the shelf. Throw it in the barrel. Fireplace.
So I have a whole list. When I knew that
Please.
Sam wasn't going to be here, I have a whole list of different things. But there was one of the things that you made a comment on Facebook, and that's the Lowell connector. Now, did you go to the meeting last night?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did you find?
Well,
Was it
the
public input?
state seems to have put together a magnificent plan. I just so happen to have a picture of it here. Now, the audience knows Gorham Street. This is Gorham Street right here. This is the connector. So this is the proposed plan. You're going to, coming from downtown, you jump on the connector, you hop on this little circly guy, they call it a roundabout, and you go up the connector, or you hug left and you come back down onto Gorham Street. Whatever you want to do, it's going to work. Coming from, we'll say, the cemeteries, you come down this way here, you hop on this guy here right under the connector. Coming home, you can scoot down this way or stay on a little roundabout and go off this way. Nobody loses their driveway, and that's all good news. They put some extra parking right here. These are bike lanes. You're looking at the purple guy right here. They're not streets. Walkways and bike lanes, that was my takeaway. I stand to be corrected. But I was pleased with the program. I asked the state people who were commentating on this online thing how many people came. They said about 50. plus staff. So that was good turnout. So that's the new connector, and it's going to be in place by 2030. It'll be done. So back over to Evelyn. We'll talk about this later on as well.
Okay, because I have questions.
Okay, go ahead, ask away.
Okay, so when they start this, are they going to have detours off the connector? Or are they going to be doing
You can't come
this?
to Lowell. They're going to close Lowell. Lowell will be closed. No one will be allowed to come to the city.
They're going to close the connector at this point?
Yep.
Will you be able to, are they going to close it so you'd have to take Thorndike Street? The exit before this?
Most of the time, that's going to work. Quite bluntly, most of the time, the connector will be wide open. You'll be able to go through downtown, go to the cemetery, go to wherever you want to go with no trouble whatsoever. Once in a while, that area will be shut down. And there'll be signage and detour arrows.
Right, I just need to know how to get here, if they shut it down.
Well, no, they won't be shutting it down our time of day. They don't start work till 8.
Okay. But you never know. But I know how to come in this, I know how to get here through the Thorndike exit.
So this is the proposed roundabout. They call it a roundabout. It's a small rotary. And a rotary has stop signs in it. A roundabout does not. So that was my takeaway from the explanation between a rotary and a roundabout. But this is the new roundabout at the Lowell connector. Nice to meet you last
I
night.
have a question.
Go ahead.
So now they have redefined a rotary.
No, it's a roundabout.
I understand what a roundabout is. They have them up in New Hampshire all over the place in order to just keep traffic moving. I don't think I have ever seen anything that looks like that.
It's a pretzel. Look at that pretzel.
No, I didn't mean that. In terms of a rotary or...
I like it.
We never called them roundabouts growing up. They were all rotaries. I never saw any that had stop signs. They had yield signs. Just to remind people what they were supposed to do, because it'll be interesting with all of the people who have licenses but don't speak English being able to navigate this.
They'll just avoid the area.
Maybe. Or they won't know what they're doing when they get there. So that will be interesting. So when we're talking about this, there was an article that was out there that talked about one of the Congress people that had made an analogy, and it had to do with the truck drivers that are not English speaking. So there's been this whole big thing about the truck drivers, that they don't know what they're doing. They may go to, truck school and that, but because they can't read English, they don't know everything they're supposed to do. And the analysis was, well, if you go to a foreign country and you rent a car, you may not be able to read what all of the signs say there either. I think it's sort of international what stop means and go, and the red light, the red and greens. But the analogy is faulty in the fact that truck drivers are usually not, necessarily given a map to get from one place to another type of thing. They got to be able to read the signs.
They got ways.
They could if they could have it in Spanish
It
or
works. It works in
Indian.
Spain.
No, I mean
I used it in Cuba.
I meant in this country
I
for the
used
truck drivers.
I used my ways in Cuba, and it worked.
Yes. However, you have that for people that are in cars that are there for a limited period of time. But truck drivers are in it. They have jobs 24/7. Some of them, they have time off and the so thing. But if they're going across country, until they get from point A to point B, they got to know English. Yielding and stopping and all the different kinds of things.
If you can't speak English, you shouldn't be driving. You want to read this one?
Why wasn't this roundabout talked about when Heinz Tavern was in its infancy?
It would have no reflection on the project. Has nothing to do with parking.
Oh, okay. So it has nothing to do with parking.
In Lowell, you don't need a parking spot anymore. You could just build a house. They don't need parking. The greedy city wants your tax money. They don't care. You have no place to park.
Well, anyway, on the truck driver thing, the reason it was brought up is because there's a lot of licenses issued to people who shouldn't be driving the trucks because they don't speak English. And I think it should be taken on an individual basis because there are driver records, and you just have to be cautious about different things and whether or not they're young or old, or how long have they been doing that. So there are court cases in California by different trucker unions because they do not want any kind of pushback on who can drive a truck, an 18-wheeler. So we'll see where that goes with regard to, driving a truck versus
I
driving
got another one for you to read.
a car. The government is always changing its terminology. Homelessness are now unhoused. We talked about this last week briefly. Illegal are now newcomers. Well, with Jay. So, Jay, as far as the people that come into this country that are not citizens of the country and have not gone through the proper channels to get into the country, whether they're visiting, they're a tourist, we'll just negate those guys, whether they had a green card, a visa, whatever it might be, even though they may have expired. But the people that came across that really weren't processed appropriately, we'll put it that way. So we went from illegal aliens, and then we had migrants, and then there's so many different terms that they've put out there. Now they've got the newcomers. So they're trying to find what term fits so that they don't have as much pushback.
Illegals. Illegals is good. If you're interested or you have a question for the End of the Connector project, take your smartphone out of your pocket, take a picture of this and email this guy or this gal, Carrie LaValle, the chief engineer at MassDOT, and he or she, I can't tell by the first name, will certainly answer your question. So they presented this last night's meeting, so take your fancy phone out of your pocket, take a picture of this slide, and if you want to write Carrie LaValle, bingo, go right ahead. Back over to you, Ev, thanks.
Okay, so one of the other articles, this is like a 1-minute, 2-minute discussion, unless you want to talk about it further. In the Department of Homeland Security, there have been apparently a lot of leaks, and there's been some in the Pentagon area also, and those people are being let go because they're putting people at risk. And whether or not you agree with what ICE does or not, they still are federal employees, and targeting them to kill them is still an offense, regardless of what their position is. And also, when I looked up different things, there was another thing that I had found. I know I had sent you an article.
Why shouldn't you be able to fire somebody who doesn't do what you tell them to do?
Well, that's insubordination. But if you have a policy that says that...
No, if you work for me and I tell you, go put those flowers in that room, and you go out in the room and play with your phone and don't move the flowers, and hey, F, get the flowers. You keep playing with your phone. The third time is... you're going home. Goodbye. You're done.
Right. But one of the things when you have a position that requires security, and you have to be very discriminating with what it is that you say to someone that doesn't either have a clearance or is in your department, that is a violation, of, I would assume, of any kind of hiring practice or HR practice, whatever might be there. So that is also would be a reason to fire those people or to investigate them to see if they actually did cause major problems. Now, what we had different people that are whistleblowers or that found a lot of secure documents within the government, and they just released all of them. That puts our security at risk, especially depending upon what information is in those documents. So you have to have some kind of security, and you have to have some kind of parameters so that people just don't arbitrarily put more people at risk within the country. City alone, no parking advisory in the Acre and the Back Central today until 4 o'clock.
Today and tomorrow.
And tomorrow. Is that because of the way...
It's in the Acre on Howard Street and Back Central on Rockdale Avenue. So if you're parked there, get your car out of there because the city will tow it. Thank you.
So there was something else that came up besides the leaks in the Department of Homeland Security and also in the Pentagon. And that was, there was I'm trying to find out where I have my notes here. I sent articles out anyway. Doesn't mean that anybody read them. There was a person that was I think was a veteran in the Vietnam War who was an illegal alien, a newcomer, a migrant, whatever. Anyway, the individual signed up for the Army, for the service in the country. So he's a veteran, and he didn't have a driver's license, according to the article, and he was pulled over for some violations, like failing to use a turn signal, going through a stop sign, whatever it might be. And so whoever the officer was that pulled him over, and he abided by that part of the law. He didn't scream off like some of them do. And he'd been in this country quite a long time, because I think he has grandchildren in this country. And I don't know his job. But the point I'm trying to make is that when they researched him, because when you go to get a ticket for something, they take your driver's license and your registration. The police officer or the state trooper or whoever it might be that pulls you over on a highway, a street, wherever you are, they do a check on all that information to see if there's any outstanding fines you haven't paid, or if there's an outstanding warrant for your arrest, or if there's any kind of anything that you've got, or if your license was suspended for a reason, or if you had a DUI and you're not supposed to be driving. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they can check on the computer. So when they checked on on the computer for this guy, they found out that there was a warrant that was issued in 2014, and Obama was the president, and he was supposed to be deported in 2014 because he was not a legal citizen of this country. And this administration deported him, and there was an outcry because they did. But the warrant was issued in 2014. The other point to be made is that most of the time, the reason that the federal government goes into the cities, they have warrants for specific people. And if they turn people out into the community, then the problem becomes is they now searching for them. And then you have your collateral damage that everybody seems to be screaming about in some cities.
Read this one, Ev.
Not one city councilor was up in arms about the residents affected by illegals. They were all grandstanding about ICE harassing legal residents. What say you, councilors?
I don't see it that way. I didn't see all the city councils against ICE. I didn't see that at all. A lot of my neighbors are ticked off about this situation because they came here legally. They did everything legally. They stood in line. They got their citizenship legally. And these people who are here, and I'm frequently reminded by my neighbors that when you go to visit Portugal, Canada, France, the authorities can kick you out of that country anytime you want, anytime they want. And there's not a doggone thing you can do about it. And that's what America is. We can kick you out anytime we want, and there's not a doggone thing you can do about it. If you're not a citizen, we can kick you out.
That's
Behave.
correct. We're not doing anything different than it is being done everywhere else in the world. It's just that we have people that think that they're special, among other things. I do not, as I've said before, I've stated before, if you are a naturalized citizen of this country, then you should come under the laws as regular citizens of this country. If you commit fraud, you go to jail in this country. Deportation, if you apply it towards natural citizens, then you should apply it towards regular citizens of the United States, the ones that are born here that are illegal, that don't need to have all those papers that they require if you're a naturalized citizen, and all the stuff that I keep hearing about.
Although we can turn the guns around against the high authorities, our Congress people, our senators, there's no path to citizenship. The path to citizenship was established in the last century and hasn't been changed.
No, there needs to be something a little bit different.
So Lori Trahan's doing nothing but bitching and moaning about Trump. Lori, why don't you become a good American and do what's good for all the citizens? Yeah, Lori, why don't you become an American? Get off that Democratic horse and become a good American, please.
Well, I think that you get off your party's position and actually try to produce concrete bills with solutions that can be debated. To continually complain about somebody else not doing the work, I don't look at those people with any kind of respect when they have their positions, because if you don't offer a solution for a problem, all you're doing is being the complaining individual. I mean, you have stereotypical individuals out there. I'm not going to necessarily mention the categories because I might offend somebody, even though I do fit into some of those categories. But if everybody is constantly complaining all the time and nothing happens except that you aggravate everybody. And it doesn't mean that by aggravating everybody, you're going to get your own way. And I think that's sometimes what they do. It's kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Let's have somebody out there that makes it a little bit smoother transition. And
There's
the
no
only way to do
mindset.
that,
There's no mindset in Washington, D.C. to create a path to citizenship. There's no mindset.
There's no mindset in Washington, D.C. to save any money either.
Including the orange hair guy. There's no mindset to fix this.
I don't understand why, and it doesn't have to be a partisan issue necessarily. It can be bipartisan bills. There needs to be a review of the system, but in the review of the system, the outcome has to be that there is an overhaul in order to make the processing faster. Sometimes the only way you get processing faster is now you got to hire more people to be able to do that. But you have to be able to make the hurdles that you jump low enough that you can get over them in a shorter period of time, instead of training to get over higher and higher hurdles. But we've been talking about stuff like this for years, and regardless of my particular political leanings, I haven't really changed my position. I read an article, some lady said, well, I'm a MAGA conservative, and I'm like, why would you label yourself like that? Because people have a preconceived idea of what a MAGA conservative is. And when you begin to try to define what it is, nobody's going to listen. If you tell people, these are my positions, if they have to pigeonhole you and label you to go into some cubbyhole to make them feel good, well, that's their problem. Because my positions really haven't changed much over the past 50 years in terms of the basic stuff. Okay? I have altered some of my opinions based upon what I think is the logical way of dealing with things. But generally speaking, regardless of who's in the White House, I still have the same views in terms of, freedom of religion and not freedom from religion. People shouldn't be running into churches regardless of what the religion is. And they shouldn't be screaming and yelling at people that are trying to worship, because we do have laws for that. And if we want to be a nation of laws, let's not be surprised when the people that break them, that are crying for law and order, are prosecuted because they violated them. And that seems to be what it is. As Sam always likes to say, rules for me, but not for thee. But I mean, you have, it's rules for thee, but not for me. That's the way that one goes. But it's highly unfortunate that we have, people out there that think that, and are shocked when they get arrested for throwing a brick at somebody. That's an assault.
These comments make pretty good sense. Read them, please.
We have a dirty media who won't be honest about the newcomer situation. The manager could have told the governor we have no room for them. Can we all agree they were let in strictly for votes? Yes, and that's why they don't want voter ID. Because if you have voter ID, now you have to have, you can't manufacture votes, you can't take the mail-in votes and make it all up or collect them or harvest them or whatever the terms are. Now, I don't know where it is. I had sent you in Messenger, John. There was a small visual, because now we've gone into voter ID. I got to get on Facebook, and I got to tell you what date it is that I sent you to put it up on the screen, because I have other ones that are here. But I have a couple of things I do want to get to before we run out of time. Let me see if you have that. That's voter ID. but I'm looking to see if, and also when they say that, you know, this SAVE Act is going to be voter suppression, the only suppression votes we're going to have are the people that aren't supposed to be voting.
I got word that there is a Supreme Court decision coming down about voter ID.
Right, well, there was also something I said to you, do you agree they're mandating voter ID across all 50 states? Yes, I do. Because I think that if you have to have a voter ID to cash a check, if you have to, I can't find it, if you have to have a voter ID to get into any of the conventions, Democrat or Republican, if you, in many cases, you may need you need to have some kind of an ID to get into being able to see any of your Congress people and get through any kinds of security with regard to that.
In Boston, you have to produce ID to get in buildings.
Yes, if you go to the State House and you have an issue, they want to know who you are.
I've been to other different high-rise office buildings. You go in the door, security says you got ID.
Yeah.
Go through that, and they have metal detectors, all kinds of stuff.
Right, and there's a lot of, what do they call them? They're in Florida, there's a lot of gated communities, but there's gated communities all over the country. In order to get into a gated community, you need to have some form of identification that you live there, or you have to be on a list that someone that lives there has authorized you to be able to come into that particular area.
Correctamundo, yep.
So there's many places that you have to have an identification. You have to have identification to buy cigarettes, to buy alcohol. So why don't we want to have it to vote? Now, with mail-in voting, I'll have to see if I can find it for next week. There's a picture that has all the different countries that said they don't have mail-in voting because they found how much fraud there was with it, and yet this country wants it. So they wanted to do that. Now
Read this from President Biden.
President Biden told us there's nothing he can do about the border. Was that a lie or the truth? Well, obviously it was a lie, because when Trump came in, he closed it. And he had closed it before. And Biden just didn't want to do it. And we are not sure exactly what the mental state and the knowledge base was of the former president, or who was actually there, because there was an awful lot of stuff that was extremely illogical and did not make sense. But that doesn't mean that all politics do. So I listened to something, some lady was on Facebook and that, not that I listen to all of that stuff, and she said, why don't the Republicans decide that they'll make all the illegal aliens legal so that they can vote for Republicans and see how the Democrats like it, where the Democrats are trying to do that, you know, kind of step up to the plate and make that kind of an effort. She was joking, obviously. And there was an awful lot of stuff. So one of the questions I have for you, did you watch the Super Bowl? John, did you?
Yes, I did.
You did. Did you watch the halftime show at the Super Bowl?
Not as much as many did. I thought it was terrible.
So I normally, when I watch the Super Bowl, I don't ever watch the halftime show. I go do something else. So and sometimes I don't watch the Super Bowl. I can hear it, but I just want to know what the final result is. It's too tense for me.
We lost.
I know, but
if
we don't always
this guy
lose.
Bad Bunny had to go to the bathroom, why didn't he go before he was on stage?
I
Kept
don't know.
holding himself like a 3-year-old.
I have no idea what was going on with him. I didn't watch it. What I did, because we went over to my sister-in-law's house, and she wanted to see what the Turning Point USA halftime show was. It was all in English.
Well, that was the Republican show, right?
I didn't think it was a Republican show.
Okay, well, it was a Republican show. Continue.
Well, I wouldn't classify it as that. I would classify it more as an American, patriotic, religious, if you want to look at it that way, show. You knew what the words were.
Did they have football?
What do you mean, did they have football? They had the halftime show.
Did they have the football game, too?
Yeah, I don't know what they had, if they had it so that you could transition to that. Because I was watching the football game on a different channel. Then we went to the YouTube that was this program.
All right, make your point, Ev, because you're going around. This makes no sense to me. Make your point, we'll turn on. Move
I
on.
didn't think it made. Anyway, I watched the Turning Point USA one, and I
Good,
thought that was
okay.
good.
So what else
because
did
that
you do
met my
Sunday?
needs. But like I said, I normally don't watch the halftime shows.
Was the Turning Point country and western?
It was a mix. You had country western, you had rap.
Something I could have got on the radio.
Yes, you can
Okay.
get all those songs on the radio.
Okay,
Just
good.
like this guy. You can get his songs on the radio if you want to.
I don't think so.
Well, he's got to have records. He just doesn't perform for
Never
nothing.
heard of the guy before? Bad Bunny. But, we could have had Manure. That's another band.
I have no idea. There's all
know.
kinds of stuff they could have done, but to have it all, with the way that it was,
Music has always
it's
been crazy
and
stuff.
yes, and music again is an individual thing.
Because the belly aching about the gyrations brings back Elvis Presley.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
The gyrations he's making, they've come back.
Yes, and moving the body.
They've come back to this
Yeah.
century to gyrations.
There's a lot of stuff of how far we've come with, especially with music, and with the content that's in the music, and they should have had for people that didn't speak the language that was being sung in, they should have had the captions on the bottom so people would have been able to know what they were singing, because many times if somebody's speaking in another language on a program, you have the subtitles that's there. So that's something that would have been interesting to do. But like I said, I normally don't watch it, and because where I was, everybody was watching what they were watching, I was sitting there. So that's where that goes.
So what's this one say, Ev?
One show was about God and country and music, and one show was about all migrants who do not care about the country.
I'm
Yeah, that
waiting
was
for
interesting.
my colleague.
That was interesting because now you have all these articles that are out there. And one of the articles that was out there, that this guy that was at the halftime show, what he did was he basically said that he's from Puerto Rico and he doesn't want any white
Evelyn,
people buying up the
You have no
houses.
idea what he said, correct?
I'm telling you what's in one of the articles. If
You
you
have
want
any
the article,
idea what he said?
it's not at
My Puerto Rican friends are telling me they could not understand what he was singing. So I'm waiting for my colleague Cisco Maldonado to come to the show, and he'll be here next Tuesday. And I'm going to ask him, Cisco, could you understand Bad Bunny? What was the words Bad Bunny was using? People, my Puerto Rican friends are saying, John, we couldn't. It was filthy. We couldn't understand it. Back over to you, Ev.
Well, what I was going to say was there was an article that expressed some of his views that he's been public about.
They can express your views too, but what did you sing at halftime?
I didn't sing anything at halftime.
And
I
we
don't know what he
and
sang
we
at
don't-
halftime.
We don't know
but
what
I
he
do know
sang.
what the other people sang at halftime.
We don't know what
on the
he
other
sang
show.
at halftime.
I thought it was interesting
Is
to
my
have an
point.
alternative halftime show. I thought that was very creative. But what I was going to say was there was an article where he has been out there talking about the fact that he doesn't like the idea that white people are buying up houses in Puerto Rico and not allowing the houses for the people in Puerto Rico. But he thinks that in the same breath, he thinks that it's okay for people in other countries to come here and live in houses in places that, in other words, it was the reverse of what's going on. And I thought that was kind of interesting too. In other words, you speak out of both sides of your mouth. So before Sandra gets here, there's a couple of things that I thought might be of interest for people. We talk a lot of times about what's politically correct or used to be in terms of climate control. And then they talk about all kinds of things to do with environment. Well, in the country of Denmark, what they've done is they have switched their streetlights in urban communities from the halogens, sodium, to red LEDs. And the reason they did that is because it is beneficial towards wildlife. There are articles out there on migratory paths of birds, and because there's so much light in cities and towns,
Hey, if you ever go to McDonald's,
they interfere with their migratory habits. So
you know
it
we
was kind of
killed a cow to
interesting
give
do
you that hamburger?
So what?
You know we killed a cow to give you that hamburger at McDonald's?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that.
Yes, you're just talking about traffic lights for the wild animals. Who cares?
Because
The squirrels can now know to stop.
it isn't the squirrels, it's what flies. And cows,
for
last time I
flies.
checked, cows don't fly in the air. So they're talking about the fact that what it does is it decreases the amount of the type of light that interferes with their eating and migratory habits. I don't have a problem with that, because you also have people that think that we have an awful lot of light pollution, and they want more down lights, which means that you have like a cover over the light, or it's pointed down so that you don't have so much light wasted, and you just have it where it is that you need to see it. A lot of people, we had changed from the soft lights to the sodium lights because it was cheaper. Question is whether or not if you go from the sodium lights and the halogens to the red LEDs, if that's going to save money, especially in cities. If people are looking at wanting to save money in their taxes, so you cut down some of the utility expenses, maybe they're going to save some money. You can put it towards something else for people.
They're never going to give it back.
So how do you feel about what's going on with the auditor in Massachusetts? She wants to do the audit. She's got a lot of pushback. The people wanted to vote on it.
She's doing the right thing. She's taking too long to do it, but she's suing the state. She should have done that from the get-go. Sue the state.
So I'm looking, I've got a whole lot of other things, but we're going to run out of time. We've only got a few minutes. And I thought that there was something, not that I like all this trivia or minor stuff. And there's several things I did send you. One was the Massachusetts auditor is suing the Massachusetts legislature for refusing to apply with a voter approved audit. There's a lot of articles that are out there on that.
Does the late, great Eddie Kennedy, did he represent any part of Chelmsford?
I don't think so.
Caller 1-812-363-2626.
Not for us. What?
Okay, so what
Did Eddie Kennedy represent any
no,
part
because
of
I didn't, or if he did, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't see anything. We didn't vote for him. We were in South Chelmsford. So, in the things that I sent you, unless you deleted them, then if you go to Messenger on Sunday at 7:54, there is a.
I can't get before Wednesday, Rev.
You can't. Okay. Anyway, it talked about the net worth of presidents. And I'm trying to see where I go here. But since I can't find it, the other thing that happens to come up is an awful lot of quotes out there, which I thought some of them were very interesting.
Okay, these are Evelyn's things she sends me. This came.
Yep.
And she sends you this when she's thinking about it. This came.
Yeah, but I don't know what that one is.
And then this came.
I didn't send that. But go ahead.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't send anything to do with Star Trek.
Well, I don't know where this stuff's coming from then. And we have the
Well, go-
Star Trek theme going by right now. Back over to you, Ev.
Okay, well, anyway, we have to break at 7 o'clock, and I will see if I can find some other. I have plenty of stuff to talk about, that's for sure. Unless John doesn't want to listen to it, and then, of course, then he wants me to move on. But I'm going to see if I can find
Well,
the.
Evelyn, the
thing that
PFAS
passed
thing for 20 minutes was a little deep.
Well, people need to know what's going on with their
No, they
water. It
don't.
makes a difference.
We'll be back.
Thank you. Don't go away.
Sean?
Welcome back. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I'm your host this morning for the City Life. We're on until approximately 8 o'clock, the hour. We've already been on a whole hour, 6 to 7, in some of the other communities that you see listed below. And I was told that we were on for 2 hours in Chelmsford. And if we are, we'll also be repeated on Sunday and I think Tuesday. So you want to check your listing to find out the time and the station depending upon what service you have. One of the things, and I'm not going to spend 20 minutes on it, we're also on YouTube, we're on Facebook. So if you're tuning in and you are from Chelmsford, I did according to John, a lengthy discussion on water. We talked about the fact that the snow melt helps wells. Chelmsford is on wells, and everybody that was in the Center Water District should have got a letter talking about PFAS in their water, and there's a lot of things that's online that will tell you that if you are concerned about consuming any of that, that you can get certain filters, but they have to be specifically stated that they will remove these from your water, and they do have filters for that. We don't have, in our house, we don't have a full house filtration system, but we do on our refrigerator, and that's basically where most of my water comes from that I use in drinking and cooking. So that's something that people can definitely take a look into if they are concerned about that. There's also information in that letter that if you fall into a certain category that is sensitive to these and you're told you can't drink the water or use the water, that if you talk to the Center Water District, you may be able to get a rebate on your tax bill, your bill for the water, not the sewer bill, but the bill for your water. Sewer
Just
bill,
in Chelmsford.
just in Chelmsford. Your sewer bill is based on water consumption. If you have really high numbers, you want to make in the an anomaly in your history of usage. You want to make sure you don't have some kind of internal leak with regard to that. There's also, I thought was very interesting. In front of my yard, we've always had a gas leak for decades. You have your climate people that complain about pollution. Well, this is. And you have people that formed regulations that said it's not a problem. So we had, every time we have a delivery person, they smell the gas, they call. The gas company comes out and nothing happens. Whatever changed from since January 1st, the person that came out this time and they measured everything, they'll be back in the spring probably to dig up the street. Because that person went around and did things that the other people didn't do in the neighborhood.
Better equipment, I would think.
It's either that, I think that he told my husband that the regulations changed. They've become more strict. So finally they did something, might have done something right. You never know. Few and far between. But what I was talking about, which I was trying to look for John to put up, was the article that I had on the net worth of presidents before and after they were in the presidency. And and I don't know the source of this because I didn't have enough time to research it. But he has a huge list of presidents from George Washington to Donald Trump. And it shows that when you first get started, George Washington, first president obviously, his net worth increased by $500,000. We can always do the analysis if you want and find out exactly what that means in today's dollars. John Adams lost $100,000. Thomas Jefferson lost quite a bit. He started with $3 million, ended up with $200,000. And then I'm not going to go through all of them. You get to Roosevelt. Pretty much the presidents before him, generally the trend was when they left the presidency, they had less money than when they entered the presidency. Franklin Roosevelt, he started with $60 million and he ended up with $65 million. Truman, his net worth decreased. Eisenhower's went from $1 to $4 million. Kennedy stayed the same. Johnson's went from 20 million to 100 million. And then as you go down with the presidents, and that include, these are Democrats and Republicans. This is not a partisan show necessarily. You find that pretty much their net worth increased dramatically. George Bush, 4 million to 25 million. Reagan's was 10 to 15. Clinton's was 1.3 to 80 million. The second George Bush was 20 to 40 million. Obama was 1.3 million to 70 million. Biden's was 2 to 10 million. And Donald Trump currently 3 billion to 2.5 billion. There you go.
I just found this off of Google, and it just shows you it's good to be the president.
But I think what the article was the one I have, is to basically say that so far Donald Trump's net worth has decreased. I think that's what this person's point was. But that there's a whole lot of other people that have more than
He
benefited.
still began with more money than anybody else already has.
Well, we knew that. Yeah, because he's a business person. He wasn't a politician to
I'm a
begin with.
business person. I don't have that kind of dough.
Yes, but you're not involved in all the things he was involved in to make the dough either, or at the length of that. I'd be surprised if your particular position would make that kind of money. How many people? So, John, if you did the math, how many people would have to die for you to even get close to any of that for your net worth? How many funeral homes?
We don't want to go there. We don't want to go there.
How many funeral homes would you have to own in your business to be able to get
obviously,
there?
He's down to 2.3 billion. He's done quite well for himself. So Trump's doing okay.
So anyway, it's okay. As long as you don't break it, we're fine. I'm going to get out of this, though. Welcome back from that slide. And we noticed that we have our guest with us this morning. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for
We
having me.
get to talk about all things legal and maybe some things that aren't. You never know.
Yeah.
It depends. I can leave it up to you. So some people may not know who you are. So if you'd like to give them you can take as long as you want, by the way, but I mean, if you want to give them a little bit of background,
Okay.
that would be great.
My name's Sandra Meneses. I'm an attorney in Lowell. My office is at 438 Central Street, right in Lowell. I do mostly estate planning and real estate, both commercial and residential. I've been an attorney for 20 plus years now.
Okay, and you do have a family.
Yes, I do. I have a husband. I have 2 teenage daughters.
That ought to be challenging.
Yes.
I had boys. That was challenging enough. I have a lot of granddaughters. They're very interesting in comparison.
How old are they?
I have one that will be 20 this year.
Right.
We have a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, one that will be 12 in a few weeks, and a 9-month-old.
So the 9-month-old gets all the attention, right?
Well, usually the younger they are, they need to have more
Yeah,
supervision.
they do.
I mean, the 20-year-old, or soon-to-be 20-year-old, does drive and is in college.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if she needs to have something, like, she couldn't have a car, she didn't have a car for a while, so, and it was a very short period of time, so I drove it back and forth. It was great to be
that
able
was
to,
nice.
connect again. I didn't mind doing that. I'd make sure that
Budget in
she had
here,
lunch.
Ev. What did you bring me today?
That's an upside-down pineapple cake.
Okay.
Upside-down pineapple.
Thank you. I'll be consuming that while listening to you girls.
Right. Well, what John did was he basically said that he had a lot of bakery, and I didn't have to bring anything in, but I had the upside-down pineapple cake, and I thought, small piece, can't
Right, yeah.
really be too bad. And he can see if he likes it. There's no coconut in it. He likes coconut, but I didn't make anything with coconut. Usually what we do is we've talked all about estate planning, pros and cons. And so what are the essential things that people need to have? I mean, I'm going to be 75 this year. By this point in time, what should I have in place?
You
Or
should,
earlier?
right. You should have a basic estate plan with wills, with a will, durable power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy. But you just need to keep in mind, if you have a basic will, that's not going to keep you out of probate. So basically, when something does happen, the will have to be probated, wait a year for creditors, and it'll have to go through the whole process. And then if you have property, you're going to have to get a license to sell from the court. So it's going to take you a little longer. So what I would suggest is that you get some type of trust in place. So a trust protects you from probate, so you don't have to go through probate. Basically, what would happen is upon your death, the trust assets would go to the beneficiaries of the trust.
Right. Now, if you don't bring things into the trust,
Yes.
you would have to probate those.
Yes, that's a good point. Because you can't just create a trust. Like, you can say, oh, I created a revocable trust, I created an irrevocable trust, but if you don't fund the trust and actually put your assets in the trust, it's like basically not having anything, because it'll go through probate.
Now, are you supposed to contact probate anyway to let them know there's nothing to do? I mean, are they going to, because somebody died, are they going to be checking into, I mean, do they have the personnel to check into whether or not you actually had money that you have to declare?
No, they don't actually. So if someone dies and they have bank accounts that their heirs didn't know about, it just goes to the Massachusetts Department of Unclaimed Property. Like, there's a whole website that you can go and look up your name, and sometimes stuff comes up that you didn't even know was out there.
Yes. Do you remember what that site is?
I believe it's Massachusetts Department of Unclaimed Property.
I think if you Google it, that stuff will come up. In
Yeah.
order to be able to get it, you have to download their documents,
Right.
fill them in. Social Security number is necessary, and it has to be notarized.
Right.
And then you can mail that in, and then you'll get a check. They'll go through, they'll verify all that information, because I had to do that.
Right. It wasn't quick, right?
No, nothing's
it's quite,
quick.
well, yeah.
Nothing's quick.
It's called the speed of government.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things which I decided I wouldn't have any accounts with the Bank of America is because I had a very small amount of money in the Bank of America because I was doing business with my parents, and it's easy if you have an account with them and they can relate to you as a customer, and now you can do some other services
Right.
with everybody else. And so there was some money that was there, but because it was an inactive checking account, they notified me. So I went to the bank and I said, what is going on here? And they said, well, this is all you have to do, which I did. And then they closed the account. Even though I went through the process and I did what they asked me to do. And when they closed it, then it got sent to the Massachusetts Treasury. So I was not happy with the fact I did exactly what they asked me to do, and then they followed through anyway. So there was a lack of communication somehow within that
Right.
area. And we found that with some other people in the family that they've had some major issues.
Well,
So-
let me just,
Everybody
serving
has a-
on some bank boards, when the state walks into your headquarters and they tell you, move all those accounts within 3 days. It's like a state cop leaning in the window of your car saying, shut your car off. Now, when do you shut the car off? Instantly. When a state official, the bank examiner comes into your bank and says, move those accounts right this instant.
Yes, but they didn't do
At
that
what
with me.
point do you think but the customer wants us, there's no buts, ma'am. Move them now.
Right, but that's not what happened. That's not what I said.
I'm gonna guess that's what the bank.
They gave me a deadline. I did stuff way before the deadline, and they still closed it. So, I mean, I'm very much used to rules and regulations and policies, so I'm, try to follow it, John. So,
Bank examiner's different, Ev, I'll tell you.
the other thing is, though,
Severe penalties.
if you have, yes, but if you do what you're supposed to do, it still doesn't work, and that's what I've found in an awful lot of things. And I'm not going to go into all those financial institutions that have screwed up in the past that we won't deal with in the future, because the older you get, it just becomes more and more of a hassle. So it's easier for what we currently do. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to reveal my personal stuff because this goes out to the public. And they don't need to know, and they're not on a need-to-know basis either. But when you have those accounts, you said, if there's accounts, somebody dies, it goes to the state. However, if you have people that know that they have the accounts,
Right.
okay, then, and they're the wife or the mother or whatever it might be, they can provide a death certificate, and they may be able at some point to get that money transferred. Because I had a friend whose husband died, and she found like 10 bank books, all kinds of different names on his name, because she was the beneficiary, like in the will.
Right.
Then she would provide the will that said that she was entitled to the money. So she had to go through and jump through on a tremendous number of hoops in order to close all those accounts because of what happened.
And
Because
they were all individual accounts too, I'm sure, right?
they were individual bank book passbooks, and each one of them had his name on it, but it also had and/or his mother's name and/or the
okay.
mother and the father's name, and they were dead. So in order to, and she didn't know anything about it until she started going through everything, that he had never changed it. And so she had to provide the death certificate and the will to those banks so that she could close out those accounts. Because, again, she was the primary beneficiary, but the other people had died.
Okay.
So and a lot of people know that if one person dies, whoever's left on the account gets the money.
So Evelyn,
Right,
you
yes.
and Sandra swapped some notes. What notes did you swap? Let's talk about that stuff.
Well, we were talking about what we're talking about now is the different stuff to do with estate planning and what the different, the trusts are, because you have a revocable trust and you have an irrevocable trust, what the benefits are
Right.
of the two. So you could just kind of briefly, tell about that, and then I have a question on an irrevocable trust.
Okay. So the revocable trust is considered a grantor trust. So in the revocable trust, you can change it at any point or amend it. In a revocable, you can provide if you want to provide guardians for your kids, you should do that in a will. You cannot do that in a trust. Just keep that in mind. So you would have to still have a will. With the trust, you always have to have a will because you want to have a pour over will, pouring whatever's left over into the trust. So with the revocable trust, it's a grantor trust. It gets filed under your social, and you just provide for your list of beneficiaries. You can have limitations saying it's for education. You can protect it from your beneficiaries' creditors. You can put all that type of language in there. And then the irrevocable trust, a lot of people do an irrevocable trust to protect their assets from Medicaid and if they go in a nursing home and they lien their property. The only thing with an irrevocable trust that you have to keep in mind is you can't change it. Once it's done, it's done. If you name a beneficiary in there, you can't decide later that you no longer want them to get anything. What would happen is the beneficiary would have to disclaim their interest or their share of the trust assets. That would be the only way. And sometimes that does happen.
So is the trustee responsible to give a financial report of the irrevocable trust?
You can put language in there that they're required to do it or that they have to do it upon request of one of the beneficiaries.
So you really need to have all of the documents of the irrevocable trust
Yes.
in order to be able to read them to see what the legal benefits are for whoever it is that's named in the trust.
So
Right.
it's also instantaneous. If you say, my takeaway, and that's why Sandra's here to correct me if I'm wrong, if the beneficiary of my trust is my wife, she instantly gets stuff. Nobody can change it. Is that true, Sandra?
Yeah, if it's an irrevocable trust, correct. And there's also language in there for tax purposes and estate taxes, what can be claimed and wording like that.
Yeah, you have to read the document in order to know what you've put in there, and there's a lot of other things that you
But
can
my
put in
thing
there.
is, it's instantaneous. There's no year waiting.
There's no year waiting. It automatically goes to the beneficiaries upon death.
Well, if you have a joint account and one person dies, the other person automatically owns it.
Exactly.
You don't need any other claim on that. You can close it out right away
Unless
if you
the
want the
trust
finances.
says otherwise.
No,
No.
the bank account would actually control it. If you have a joint bank account with somebody else, they automatically get the money.
Okay, then it supersedes the
It
trust?
supersedes the trust, yeah. So does,
Good good to know.
Because you would have to put the bank account in the name of the trust or make the trust the beneficiary of the bank account.
Right.
That's what you'd have to do. And like 401ks and life insurance, those also fall outside of probate. So unless you make the beneficiary the trust, then it just goes as it says, automatically.
Okay, ladies, I'm gonna grab some time today off the show to talk about this, and then you guys can chatter about what you want to talk about with the precious time left. And this is the proposed low connector. They had the meeting last night online. This is Gorham Street. This is the roundabout they're gonna put. The project should be finished by 2030. So it looks like a pretty good project. Gorham Street, you're gonna have to, if you're coming from downtown, you're gonna come up Gorham Street, you're gonna go by the old Hines, go by South Highland Street, and you go on the connector this way. If you're coming from, we'll say, the cemeteries or Spaghettiville, you're gonna come down this way here, get on this circle, and head out the connector. Coming home, you're gonna come down here, and it's gonna feed you into downtown, or it's gonna feed you back out to Spaghettiville. Page 2. If you have questions about this project, take your fancy phone out of your pocket and take a picture of how to reach the people who are designing this. If you have a question, write Carrie LaValle, and the email address is up here. So take a picture of this whole slide, and you can write Carrie LaValle and ask whatever questions you might have about the end of the connector roundabout project, which will be completed by 2030. And lastly, if you're in the acre on Howard Street, you need to move your car right this instant. They're gonna tow it. They're gonna move the snow on that street today. And back Central, a street called Rockdale Avenue, if you're over there, they're gonna tow your car. So get out there, move your car, or the city's gonna tow it for you. Back over to you gals, thank you for your patience.
Well, when you were talking about parking, we can talk about driving. I'm not exactly sure. How were the condition of the roads when you drove in?
Oh, they were fine, actually. They weren't bad.
Right, well, what I was telling John, and we discussed it early in the last hour, as I'm coming down towards the center of town on Route 110, I test my brakes because there's vehicles at the light.
Oh, yeah.
And they grab, and I went, that's not good. So I'm tapping my brakes to make sure that the people behind me know, beware. Don't run into me, please, brand new car. And it was slippery. So some of it was, and it took me like 10 minutes to get my windshield free of ice and all the other stuff this morning. I looked out, I'm going, oh, it snowed. But I didn't realize that it actually was like this much ice that was, the snow melted and then turned to ice with regard to that.
Yeah, we had a little snow last night, not a lot. I think it was before 10 o'clock, it was snowing a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like we got about an inch.
Yeah.
Because it's light and fluffy, so everything looks a little bit deeper. But light and fluffy means it's easier to blow. In fact, you could get a leaf blower out there.
My husband does that sometimes.
If you have really light snow. Of course, unless you live in a community that says you can't have leaf blowers.
Right.
Because they don't like the noise. So to kind of wind up, I mean, we've gone into details in the past on all of the stuff to do with the irrevocable trusts and revocable trusts and the different things under the heading of estate planning. And those are things that you shouldn't really wait for. But even if you are a lot younger, you have children, you should have some kind of a will with the provision of legal guardianship in there.
You should, yes, definitely.
You should make sure you check with the people that you want to make sure that they want to do that. And then if you are unsure of that, I would assume you could put anything in there. If these people don't do it, then ask these people. And if these people don't, I mean, you could have a whole list.
Right, you can, yeah, because you can do that for personal representatives and guardianship, trustees, for everybody. You
You're
can
not
always
limited.
put someone second. You're not limited.
Right. Now, on an irrevocable trust, this is a question that I thought of the other day. If I knew that I was going into a nursing home, can I put everything in an irrevocable trust before I end up in one?
Well, there's a 5-year look-back period.
Now, but you said that once you have an irrevocable trust and you've got everything in that irrevocable trust, nothing can undo it. Can the state undo it?
Well, what they can do is they can look back 5 years to see what you did with the property. And if in those 5 years you put in the irrevocable trust, they can still try to attach it. So whenever you go into a nursing home, and they usually will file a notice of lien, just so you're on notice. So if something, If you own property, they run the registry of deeds. If you own property individually, they'll usually file a notice of lien regardless. It depends whether you own whether it's gonna be removed, depends whether you own it jointly or there's a life estate. But with the irrevocable trust, there is the 5-year look-back period. So what they do is they go back and look to see what you did with the property in the past 5 years.
So even though if you knew you were going and you put it into an irrevocable trust, then when you pass, then they can then they'll have a lien on your property and any other tangible goods, financial goods type of thing. And then they can collect on that when those go to be sold.
Right.
Okay. So they can't really get the money, they can't
They can
force
get
you
your
to sell.
entire nursing home costs. They can get them all. If you're sick in the nursing home, I did an irrevocable trust, ha 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 ha, and it's 4 years old, they can collect.
Right.
Right.
So when, just as a personal experience, when my uncle went into a nursing facility, way before that, he had changed the deed on the house.
Okay.
And that way then, even though there might have been a lien, they can't collect it because of the way the deed read.
Right.
So when he ran out of cash, tangible items, that he had that he could liquidate, and he had to apply for Mass Health, we were 1 month over the 5-year look back. So it didn't count. But they put a lien on it anyway.
So the
Okay,
trust, the trust is your slave. It'll do, if it's written properly, and Sandra, I'm sure you can write it properly, it's your slave until you become incapacitated. And once you become incapacitated, the trust does what it's supposed to do.
Right, but I'm using my personal
I'm talking to Sandra.
The trust, yeah. Once you become, the trust will do what it needs to do upon your death. And then there's usually, in irrevocable trust, you can't be trustee, but in every trust, there's a second person in line if you need to be trustee.
Okay, thank you.
But that's a good point, Evelyn, because what happens is the deed was probably either jointly or a life estate deed. So they will put a lien or put notice of it, but then after he passes, he's no longer owner.
Right.
So then
Yes, we did.
that's why they took it off after.
Right. With my parents, it didn't end up being that way because we needed the money from my mother. So we decided, the three of us that were left, decided that we had to sell the house in order to finance things for her and not wait.
Right, so because of that, that's why the nursing home could still take
Yes.
the money. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
And
a good point.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pieces to this that people think they have a loophole, but they really don't.
No.
And people will try almost anything because they just don't want to give the money to the state with regard to that. So there's a lot of details. If people have other questions, you can certainly send them in. We can find out answers to them.
Right.
But we talked about doing a few other things. One of the things I brought up was the Trump accounts.
Right.
I know a lot of details with that. It may not apply to our listening audience, but maybe they have children, grandchildren, friends, other relatives that it may apply to do that. So if you could just, briefly touch on that, because it's not complicated, I don't think.
No, it's not complicated. So you would have to open the account, the investment account, and it's for children born, I think it's between the end of last year to 2028. So once you open it and fund it, then the federal government will also put in $1,000. But they'll only stop funding it in July of this year. And
So
then
you can apply for it, but that money won't go into that account until July.
Right, exactly. So you can open it, fund it, but then the federal money, they're saying, won't start hitting the accounts till July.
But now, didn't they say that all children under 18 can open up an account, but you don't get the $1,000?
Exactly, yes. You're right.
So it's with babies that get the $1,000, but everybody else that's under 18 can open up one of these accounts also,
Right.
and people can put money into it, and then it can be invested depending upon what vehicle you use to put the money in.
Yeah. So for instance, if you had a job before you're 18 and they put money in, I guess the first $2,500 would be tax-free. Like, you wouldn't pay employee taxes on that. The first $2,500 would be tax-free.
When you access it.
Yes.
So you can put taxed money into it, but then when you take it out, it's also going to be taxed.
Mm-hmm.
So you're double taxed on the money that you have in it. So it's it may have a higher yield interest rate, but on the basis of what you just said, then it probably would be better to have some kind of like a CD or a savings account, because the money you put into that, you're not being taxed on the principal. You're being taxed on what the increases are.
Right.
That is beyond what you put in.
Right, because I think then
The interest.
Right, because then when you're 18, it turns into a traditional IRA.
Right, but I think that in some of those, you have to delineate between what you had as taxed money going in and non-taxed money go in. So if you have the 401k and your company puts money into the 401k, you don't have any access to it at all. It's non-taxed to begin with. When you
Right.
pull it out, it's taxed. So it's
Right.
taxed once.
Right.
So people need to check to see what the details are on these particular accounts to see if it's actually beneficial as far as investment goes. But $1,000 is free money.
Right, so you might as well open it, get the $1,000, and you can decide how much you want to put in that, or you can set up a different account.
Or you can do nothing.
Right.
So some of the other things you sent me, some other topics. I also sent you another article I thought might be fun.
Yeah, that was a fun article. It was a long list. I was surprised. Well,
Yeah.
they're kind of common sense, but at the same time, you're like, it's a long list.
Well, it was the article that I sent her was 19 things you don't buy in a thrift store.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't normally shop in a thrift store. Basically, lately, all I'm doing is shopping either online, like Amazon,
Yeah.
or I'm going to a grocery store.
That's true.
And that's where I'm at currently. And as far as, Christmas gifts and things, online shopping. I mean, that's the way to go.
It's so much easier if you know what someone wants or what you're going to get them earliest.
Oh, yeah. And plus the fact that if they send you a link, you know exactly what it is. You hit the link, you hit buy, you pay, you get it, you can
Yeah.
wrap it, do whatever you need to do with it. And talk about convenience. I mean, I wish I had that when my kids were little. It would have been, the problem is, would I have spent more money?
I know, that's
than I
true.
did. Because there's so many sales out there, you can shop all year long for the sales. But there was an article about that, and I had sent it to Sandra. So was there anything on there that you saw that was a surprise?
I think the only thing was like the crystal stuff. Because sometimes you go thrifting, I think one thing, sometimes people see a nice piece of crystal or glasses, and they're like, oh, this looks like an antique, and then, which the article said you shouldn't because it has lead in it, which was one of the things, that was one of the things that surprised me.
So there's a lot of decanters that they used to have even centuries ago.
Right.
Okay, made out of glass. And when they made it out of glass, lead was in it. And when you put the liquid, whatever it might be, brandy, whiskey, wine, whatever you have in it, if you keep it in there long enough, I don't know what the threshold is. The lead that's in the glass is water soluble. Mm-hmm. And there's always water in something because the alcohol isn't pure.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into the chemistry, it bores everybody. So the lead will leach into that liquid. I don't think it's enough to poison you, but it's a health risk. And all those cut crystal glasses that you see,
Mm-hmm.
if you're drinking it immediately, the lead is like no lead in it. So it's when you have stuff sit in it that you have
Right.
to be careful. And I've known that for an awful long time. I know I have some stuff in some lead decanters, but I just leave it there because it looks good. I don't drink it.
Right.
Then at some point I'll pour it all out. And I don't know if it's an all glass, but
Right.
I know that they talked about the crystal that was there. And there's some standard things that you just don't have. I mean, you've got steel straws. They don't reuse those.
Right.
And personal, certain like underwear. There's a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, there's an
What
article
does
out
this
there.
have to do with law?
It doesn't, but we had some different light things. You asked what we
I didn't
texted
ask.
back and forth. What were the things that you texted back and forth that you talked about? This was one of them, and I'm
Well,
done.
Let's skirt back over to law.
Well, I'm done.
Okay. I don't care about crystal underwear.
Well, there's a lot of things that you don't care about that I talk about. That's okay. It becomes evident as we go through the list. So we went through, so there was another thing that we talked about was real estate, okay? And there must be new laws. There are different things that, that you must have to, like, do seminars or online updates on different things that happen. So are there new laws, not only just in Massachusetts, but in the federal government dealing with real
Grab
estate?
another mic, your mic just died.
The light's on.
I couldn't care less.
Oh, my mic or hers?
Yours,
mic.
Evelyn.
Excuse me.
There you go, thank you.
Okay.
Now you're all better.
Okay.
So I actually have a story to tell about, so I was in New York this past weekend, and I happened to turn on to the TV and was listening to local news. And there was I think it was like a city council member who was trying to get some type of legislation or something passed because the elderly were getting, they were stealing their homes. So basically what was happening is they would go by for them to sign something, like maybe they were getting solar panels or something else, and they'd put a deed in there. And then they would sign the deed without knowing. And then people were stealing the title to their home.
Whoa.
Which I found I can't imagine that happening around here, but I didn't know it was so prevalent in other states. Like, I guess it was a big issue over there with the elderly and stuff
Well, they're
like
very
that.
trusting.
Yeah, they are.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
The key takeaway there is read something before you sign
Yes, read everything before you sign it, and always, ask one of your kids to be present if you have to.
Well, also, Karen Cassell at the Registry of Deeds, they offer a text if somebody tampers with your property.
Yeah.
But how do you know if you've already signed the papers?
They offer a text that tells you somebody's tampering with your property.
Well,
Even if you signed it, you're going to get a text, hey, you're selling your house. Yeah, I know.
so so anything going through the Registry of Deeds, regardless of whether it's legal or illegal, they let you know.
How would they have your number?
You have to request it.
Oh, so you have to request the text. Oh, so it's I didn't know about it, but I guess it must be an online system where you put in all your information, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
then-
new. Karen Cassell got
Oh,
it
that's
going.
interesting.
And my takeaway from a conversation with her is you sign up for it, and if somebody wants to buy your property, you get a text.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's great. I think we have a pretty good registry system here, especially Middlesex North, where I haven't really seen it happen. There's certain properties sometimes that we get a message from the title insurance company that it was fraudulent. People were trying to sell it and they didn't own it. Like, we'll get a message once in a while. But I don't see too many things in regards to people stealing a home through a deed or stuff like that. Around here, anyway.
No, they'd do the thing with the title, and if they had any access to your social security number, and then they will borrow against it, like changing the deed. But most of that isn't in Massachusetts.
No, it's not.
It's in a lot of western and southern states.
Right.
Not exactly sure why there's so much of it there, but it seems to be like that. I thought that some of the other things, make sure that, like I said, no matter what piece of paper is put in front of you, no matter how much in a hurry the person might be, or basically saying, just sign it, you know what it is, and they may lie to you of what the paper is. You need to read it.
Right.
You need to understand it. And if you don't like what you read, or if you don't understand what you read, please do not be pressured into it. And sometimes those papers come with notaries. It has to be notarized. Make sure that if there's a person that you don't know with the person that's trying to get you to sign that paper, and you arbitrarily sign it, that person may be a notary thinking that everything is above board. Yep, you just wish the signature, they have all the information, and everything happens, and you're just out of luck when that happens. And you'd have to prove it I would assume in a court of law, or sue
You
somebody.
have to, yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Plus, it can be costly.
It can be costly and take a while.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, you've lost out on whatever it is, and somebody can move things around and hide things.
Right.
There's a lot of information out there for people to make themselves aware of where people can defraud them out of property and money and any number of other things that they may have.
So, like, whenever you purchase a property, the attorney handling the purchase will always do a 50-year title search to see if anything is outstanding on title for the last 50 years. I mean, sometimes we'll find like a prior mortgage that was never discharged, so that will have to be done prior to closing. But sometimes sometimes you get tax liens like executions. You might have someone with the same name as yours, so the tax lien will come up on record. So then that's when you have to see if that person has the same social, or if not. Because there are a lot of people out there with the same name. I just had someone come up the other day, but it wasn't the same person, but it was a tax lien for a large amount.
I think there's I'm certainly sure you got a lot of interesting stories that you could tell. Because, every profession seems to have that. Now, what about the tax on tips and tax on overtime in the state of Massachusetts versus what the federal government wants? Because a lot of people don't realize there's a difference, because you have to file both sets of taxes. One, for Massachusetts anyway, there are some places don't have income taxes.
Right.
So this would be relevant. But for those people that fit into those categories, you can kind of address that a little bit?
Right, so the tax on tips is up to 25,000, I believe. I was just reading about it last night. And if you make more than 150K, then it starts to dwindle down.
The cap.
The cap starts to dwindle down. If you're single and make above 150, and if you're a married couple and it's more than 300,000.
What obligation does the company you work for have to keep track of your tips?
There's I don't know if there's an obligation to keep track of tips, because employers don't always do that, because unless you're reporting your tips to your employers. But there's an obligation to keep track of overtime. I know there's an obligation for that, and
That's what your time clock's for. But
Yeah.
if I work for you, waiting tables, and you don't have an obligation to keep track of my tips,
Right.
so how's the state going to know how much tips I got?
Well,
I ain't tattling on myself.
they're hoping the person's honest, but
There aren't any honest taxpayers.
So when you when you charge something, unless you give the tip in cash,
that's true. Yes.
you have a record that goes through the books of whoever it is that's wherever you are, the restaurant, the spa. I'm trying to think of where you would tip people that
Stick
you
with
would
the
charge.
restaurant. We know what you mean. Yep.
So that has to go through, and they have to determine who gets the tip, or if it's collective, where all that goes in one pot, and then it's divided up amongst the employees. So many behind the scenes get it, because they normally don't get tips, and that's why a lot of restaurants will collect it all together. Everybody is required to put it in the kitty, so that everybody, we'll put that in quotes, because not everybody knows what that is. Because you have, busboys will put that in quotes, because a lot of people don't know what that is. Your chefs,
Right.
your short order cooks, your sous chefs, any of those people, the maitre d', the hostess, host, whoever it is that's seating you at the table, they don't get tips. So in order to spread it around, there are businesses that require that everybody put all their money into one pot. But where I think that the company would be responsible is if it goes through their charge
Right,
services.
which is a good point, because a lot of people do charge it, and that's where the tip ends up is that way.
Right. And I know a lot of people that will do cash. My husband does that on occasion. We have friends that will do that on occasion, just because they like the service of the person that's at the table.
Right.
They don't want to fund everybody else for whatever reason.
Which is it's fair.
Well, it's our prerogative too, but
Yeah.
the chef did make the food. Regardless of what service you get, so if you like the food, and there's a lot of nice places out there. So you have that Massachusetts is one of the states that put legislation in that you are still taxed on tips and overtime. Is that correct? Did you look that one up?
I didn't look that one up.
All right, so you have a bunch of
Go ahead.
states. I think we've mentioned this before when you
Yeah.
went on, just so people know. There are states out there that put legislation in that the state income will require you to report your tax on tips and your tax on your overtime.
But it's always been like that, right?
Yes, but there are states that didn't do that, or you have
Oh.
states that have no income tax.
We don't go to New Hampshire, we only go to Massachusetts.
Right, but depending upon where you work, then sometimes you can, and live.
Yeah, like if
There's
you
different
work,
things.
right. If you work and live in New Hampshire, then you don't pay income tax. But I believe if you work in if you work in New Hampshire and live in Mass, you're still paying, of course, the.
Right, and if you live in
Yeah.
New Hampshire and work in Massachusetts, you still pay Massachusetts income taxes.
Right.
So it goes back and forth.
Right.
And so regardless of some of the details that John went into, you still need to be aware of what it is you have to file. And the federal government is saying, and you said there's a cap, that you can't go over depending upon income. So everybody needs to be very careful about what they do with some of the new tax things that's coming out.
Right. If you go to the IRS website, it's actually they have a summary of everything. It's pretty straightforward and understandable. Because, sometimes if you publish the statute itself, it's not really legalese, but they have a good summary of it.
So you had some other things on the list.
Right, so the overtime is about, I think there's the deduction for tax on overtime the cap is $12,500. And again, of course, if you make $150 or $300, then it's gonna dwindle down. And then if you're filing jointly, then it's $25,000. But I know for overtime, the employer is required to give you a summary at the end of the year of your overtime.
Okay, so on the list we have, you can pick anything out here. The child standard deduction.
Oh, that went up by $200.
Each child.
Each child, yes.
So what was it before? What's the original? Do you remember?
I don't remember the original, even though I claim it on my tax. I thought it was like 1,000 maybe.
Well, whatever
But
it
don't
is,
quote me on it.
it
Yeah.
now has increased.
By 200. And then the standard deduction, I guess, increased by $750 for someone single and $1,500 by a married couple.
Did anything change with people over, you have senior deduction
Yes,
here?
senior deduction. There's 6,000 additional deduction for seniors.
Individually?
Individually, yes.
12,000 filing jointly?
Yes.
I gotta memorize those.
And it phases out, so if you make 75,000 individually, it begins to phase out or lessen, and 150,000 for a joint couple.
So if it phases out, if depending upon what you're making,
Right.
then you may not get it at all. So it is income dependent.
Yeah.
So if you are a person that has 401ks, you've got your IRAs, you've got to take a certain amount of withdrawals out of that, then you may end up over the amount. And some of that cannot be deferred, so that you can, 1 year, take advantage of it
Right.
and go to another one. So it has to be, that's in terms of the 401ks and the IRAs. You have to be careful about what it is you do with regard to that. And also, years ago, and when I say years, I'm talking decades and decades, some people had savings bond programs.
Yeah, I remember those.
And so, you could give one as a wedding gift. My kids got them when they were born. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. My mother had a tremendous amount of them. I know my husband was in a program at work because we figured that would be helpful to put that money aside, that's pre-tax money, to be able to put kids through college. But when you cash those in, that's income. And that also will add to that list in terms of income if you're looking for that deduction. So there's a lot of it. And have you done savings bonds, cashing in savings bonds?
I have, actually.
So you look at what do they call it? You look at the,
I think, there's a website where you can put in how much in the year, and then it tells you how much it's worth now, right? If I remember.
yes. And then also on that chart, it will tell you when it goes up the next time.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're really close to the time where it goes up the next time, wait.
Right.
So you want to always take a look and cash them in right after it goes up. Because in some cases, it goes up significantly, depending
Right.
upon how many you have and what the value is on those. So savings bonds is another interesting financial thing, but they're not pushed at this time.
Yeah, they're not. I think it was years ago when I was younger, I remember. But you'd get one for Christmas, for your birthday, it was the thing.
But yeah, now nobody does them anymore. And then another thing, actually, and since we did talk about estate planning, the federal estate tax deduction has gone up to 15 million. Which is, it's,
Well, that's a worry for most of the audience.
I know, right? So, I mean, just so people know, so most people aren't gonna pay federal estate taxes.
On the estate.
Yeah,
So if you have, because it used to be a small number.
it was $1 million for a while, and then it kind of gradually changes, it stays the same, and every year.
Now it's
But-
500 million.
No, 15.
15 million for federal,
Okay.
But what is it for state?
it's about $1 million, I believe.
Yeah, it's still low.
Yeah,
And then you have the percentages, because, which is unfortunate that they do that, because, people save their money so that people can inherit it. So you get taxed on the money. We go through this a number of times. You earn the money, you get taxed on it. And then if you invest it, you get taxes. And if somebody inherits it, they get taxed.
yeah.
So it's tax upon tax upon tax, which is very disappointing. So it's almost like one of the suggestions is that depending upon your health, I mean, so, if all of a sudden you die, you can't do this. You could take and put people's names on accounts, move the money into the accounts, you die, there's no
Right.
interest, there's no tax. The people haven't inherited the money per se. If you're filing for the Mass Health, if you're in a nursing home
Right,
and there's a 5-year look back, you can't do that within the 5 years.
mm-hmm,
Because you are asked, and under perjury, you would have to answer correctly, obviously, because they can easily track
Evelyn,
it.
do
Have
you-
you put any money into that account?
Do you know anybody who's gone to jail for perjury? It's a joke.
No, but it's also fraud, and you can go to jail
People
for fraud.
lie.
I know, but I'm just telling you.
Nobody goes to jail
Sometimes
for
they
perjury.
find out. All right, so,
fraud is a big thing right now, especially with all the wire and stuff, with wire fraud and stuff.
oh yeah, the stuff going on in all the different states with
Yeah.
federal money. So now we've gone through.
So, Sandra, what would you say for somebody who's 60 years old? What's the safest thing to do with your money? So you don't get ripped off by the internet, you don't get ripped off by your granddaughter's AI voice calling you up saying, I'm in jail, help me, Grandma.
Yeah, that's a thing going on.
So what's the best thing? You got any ideas for seniors?
I would
Because
say,
seniors are our big audience.
yeah, CDs is always a good option because you get a steady interest rate. So that's always a good option with the stated beneficiary. Then it goes to the stated beneficiary if anything happens to you. I mean, just try to protect your assets. You could always put them in a trust, have the trust as beneficiary, and just don't believe anybody that calls you and says stuff like that. Make sure you reach out to that person or a family member. Because, I mean, like a lot of things, like getting text from UPS or FedEx. The federal government's not going to really text you if something's wrong, or Social Security, stuff like that. So don't believe any text or email you may get.
But you
Look
also,
at the email address, because most likely if it's fraud, it's not coming from where it should be coming. There's something weird with the email address.
Well, how would the tax entity get your email to begin with?
Exactly. So they're not going to send you stuff that way.
well, I do get stuff from Social Security, and I will get stuff from Medicaid and other types
I don't
of
get
things.
any emails from them. I get a waste of paper email every
Right,
month.
but I've gotten emails,
Do you have to log into
but that's because I have an account.
right,
So
and
the
you have to
question,
log into it, right? Is there a password that you have to log into
Yes.
it? Yes, exactly.
that's if I want to get into my account.
Right.
But I'm just saying that sometimes I get notifications,
Mm-hmm.
and those notifications, when you check that email address, it is them.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I don't click on anything on that. I go back into Google or whatever my search engine is. I go onto the site to see if it is
Yeah.
the same thing. So I don't trust what's coming into my email, regardless of what that address is, because you don't know if they're covered it. And what some people will do, they're able to figure out, I don't know how they do this, I should ask my middle son, or maybe my husband knows. It will come up on the screen of your telephone, Johnny. Now you know that's your grandson. And then you Grandma, I'm in jail. I need bail money. I don't want to call my parents. All this other crap and everything. So you get that, and you think maybe there's a problem, especially if you're not in contact with your grandchildren, and you have a grandson named Johnny. We'll just use this all generic, made up here, hypothetical. So one of the things you can do if you're really, really concerned is instead of wiring them money or saying, you'll have to text me the details because I can't remember and I don't have a pen or a pencil, where do I wire the money? So now you have evidence of whatever the fraud is, if you want to do that. The other thing is you can say, well, since this is his cell phone, I'm going to call you back and I'm going to see whether or not it's true, which you could do. And in most cases, that cell phone number the identification is overrode his number.
Right.
So when you call back on his real number, you'll get the real person. But there's a lot of things that you can double check, regardless of whether he's embarrassed with parents or whatever it comes over, because I had those phone calls.
Oh, you did?
Yes. So I had one guy that called up and, Grandma, whatever it was. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Why are you doing this to me? I don't remember what my answer was to that guy. The next phone call came from a woman. Grandma, I said, I don't have I don't have any grandchildren. And I says, I don't know what this is all about. And they hung up. So there's a number of tactics, but you've got to be thinking about it.
Right.
I had somebody call U.S. Treasury. This is the U.S. Treasury. We're going to give you $5,000. All you have to do is, excuse me, where's it coming from?
Yeah, U.S. Treasury doesn't.
Can you tell me what line item it is? And when I did that, they were like, what?
Hey, tomorrow City Life, we got Cliff Krieger's going to be the host. Eileen Del Rossi's going to be here. Fred Bahu's going to be here. Ralph Hogan's going to be here. On Monday, President's Day, we're going to have the Senator Forum. We've invited all 3 senator candidates to come to City Life on Monday. So we're looking forward to having a nice forum on Monday morning. It's starting at 7. We'll be on at 6 anyway, but starting at 7, a nice candidate forum on Monday morning. Back over to you, Ev.
Right, and if you are on this program, listening to this program, you have questions, then you don't want to get up that early, but you are up this morning, text the 978-808-8200, whatever questions you want to ask those senatorial candidates. And John will pick those up and ask them.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Right. So I think we covered a lot of territory.
I think so.
Yep, and we always do, and have a great time.
Yes,
Thank
we
you
do.
so
It's
much
always
for
great.
coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions on estate planning, send those in, and the next time I'm here, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you'd like us to discuss any topics.
Right, so before this ends, because I know in Chelmsford it's going to end at 59:29.
That's when the sun goes out.
And so if you tell them your contact information.
Okay, so you can call my office at 978-804-7959, or you can go on my website at www.meneseslawoffice.com, and there's also a couple of articles that you could read, and you can sign up for a 15-minute consultation. So feel free to check it out. There's more information there and ways that you can contact me.
Okay, well, thank you very much again, and all the information, all the free
Say
information.
goodbye, girls. Thank you.
Have a great day,
All
everybody.
right, bye, everyone.
See you next time.